people who work at small businesses who are interested in getting pro bono support from business consultants. So Taproot works primarily with nonprofit organizations, but quite recently we have started to debut some of our features of our main program, Taproot Plus, to small businesses as well. Hi, everyone. Simona, that's a great question down in the chat, that you're from Europe and if we're supporting European organizations. Right now, we'll get into eligibility a bit later, but right now we do support nonprofit clients in the European Union. We're cleared to work there. For the time being, as far as small businesses go, if you are classified as a small business, we're only making features on Taproot Plus open to small businesses in the United States. So unfortunately, right now, we are not cleared to offer certain features in Europe. I know, I'm sorry if it's a disappointment. But we hope to be able to expand more features in the near future into as much of the world as we possibly can. But I'll go ahead and just jump into introductions. Like I said, my name's Josh. I work here at the Taproot Foundation. I am going to be kind of leading the presentation today as we go through. Again, there will be time for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, drop those down into the chat. And we will take those live on the air. But I want to pause here and just take a moment. We have another member of the Taproot Foundation who is going to be kind of helping to facilitate things in the chat. So Kristen, could you come off mute and just introduce yourself to everyone, who you are, maybe where you're located, and what you do here at Taproot?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen. I'm the Marketing and Communications Associate here at Taproot Foundation. And as you're commenting or asking questions in the chat, I'll be active in the chat. And thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. It helps so much if we have two people kind of managing these types of presentations. So someone can kind of handle all the information in the chat and then make sure we have some good Q&A questions for the very end. So that's kind of who we are from Taproot here on this call today. But now I just want to introduce Taproot to you a little more kind of in general, like who we are and what we do. So at the very basic, Taproot was founded as a nonprofit foundation. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit foundation in 2001, with the knowledge that there is a pretty big resource gap present in the social sector in the United States in particular. So organizations who might have the solution to our world's most pressing social challenges simply do not have the financial means or staff capacity to carry out their missions to their fullest extent. So our mission is right here. Taproot empowers mission-driven organizations by mobilizing skilled volunteers to advance resource equity. Like I said, we've opened some of our services up to small businesses as well. So we're not just serving the nonprofit community anymore. We are also serving small businesses, which is what this particular presentation is geared towards. But that's kind of who we are and what our mission really is. But I also just want to provide you with some really quick stats here about our impact and what we do. So Taproot is really here to get social good organizations business support they need on a pro bono basis. So since the early 2000s, Taproot has partnered with over 10,000 social change organizations, now including small businesses, and 24,000 volunteers, totaling over 300 million in donated professional services for both nonprofits and small businesses. So we seek to forge pro bono connections every week through our online program, Taproot Plus, which we'll talk a little bit more in depth about, because if you're a small business leader and you're interested in accessing pro bono consulting services, Taproot Plus is the main place you're going to go. It's a free to use volunteer nonprofit / small business matchmaking platform. And in addition to community-led programming through Taproot Plus, our nonprofit has also partnered with over 100 Fortune 500 companies through our advisory services practice, which is kind of another arm of Taproot Foundation, bringing corporate employee talent directly to nonprofits and small businesses across Taproot's network. So through the Taproot Plus platform, we're trying to lower barriers to entry for organizations just starting out or looking to grow further. So like it says here, since 2020, obviously during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have decided to expand our services to small businesses. So far, we've made parts of Taproot Plus available to small businesses so they can take advantage of our services in the same way nonprofits are able to take advantage of our services. Working with skilled volunteers is a really great way for small business leaders and nonprofits to build infrastructure, and also just develop the muscles of managing consultants and external contractors and things like that. But more importantly, pro bono service is a really good way to fuse your organization or business with high quality resources in lieu of, grant funding and financial struggles that oftentimes smaller organizations or small businesses are faced with when they're seeking to expand. It's also a great way for established organizations and businesses to demonstrate flexibility to funders and potential partners. That you are engaging in pro bono service as well. So you're obviously trying to raise financial support, but you're also trying to resource raise. And so oftentimes that can be helpful to demonstrate when you're seeking other partnerships that you're exhausting all available possibilities, right? So as we move on here, I do want to just also talk about the why of Taproot and why we were established in the first place, because I think it'll help lay the groundwork for small businesses to understand our approach, but also how you as a small business leader should be thinking about skilled volunteerism in general. So obviously one of the primary reasons Taproot was founded was to help democratize access to consulting resources, originally just for nonprofits, but now for small businesses. Typically, these types of resources, as you probably know, have been gatekept or paywalled. And so that bars thousands of organizations like yours with maybe smaller budgets from getting the type of professional services and support they need. Nonprofits and small businesses are often founded by very passionate people who might be jumping into the role of institutional leader or business leader for the very first time in their careers. So if you're not someone, with a fancy MBA or experience in the consulting world, it's really easy to misidentify or misdiagnose needs and the skill sets required to tackle them sometimes. Additionally, if you are one of those people who has a fancy MBA in consulting or, experience in the business world, who are passionate about giving back, they did not know exactly where they could give back, where they could do volunteerism. So people, who work in business, who are interested in helping mission-driven organizations, small businesses in their community, would often express, confusion or uncertainty about where is there any kind of space to do that, or actually be a part of that kind of programming. So we pride ourselves in trying to be a leader as an intermediary, connecting the business world to nonprofits and small businesses. And finally, when we found out that organizational and institutional leaders like you do correctly identify their needs, sometimes there can be a struggle with turning those needs into actionable projects with projects or consulting deliverables that you're looking to deliver upon. So this can lead to, a lot of problems in clarity, in finding the right person with the right skill set to actually aid you and give you the type of consulting advice that you need. So helping alleviate all these difficulties remains at the cornerstone of what Taproot Foundation does. And just, I want you to keep them in mind while we go forward, and think about them in terms of your own efforts to engage with skilled volunteers from the business world. I think all of these challenges are still relevant for seasoned nonprofit and small business professionals. So it's pretty much always prescient, and that's just kind of one of the reasons why we exist. So now that we've laid some of the groundwork about who Taproot is and what we do, I want to actually dive into some more of the nitty gritty, so to speak, and what you're all interested in here, which is how to access our services and how to use them successfully. So we'll dive in here to the portion where I introduce kind of our features for small business support. So some of you might be familiar with our online marketplace, which is called Taproot Plus. And if you have not yet signed up for Taproot Plus as a small business, you can do that right now. There should be a ribbon that appears right at the top of the screen that'll take you directly to Taproot Plus to sign in if you'd like. But I'll talk a little bit more about Taproot Plus here in this slide while you all are scoping it out if you haven't looked at it already. Taproot Plus is essentially a virtual online nonprofit / small business and volunteer matchmaking platform. So we designed Taproot Plus to be flexible and nimble, so nonprofits and small businesses can get skilled volunteers no matter how big they are, and any business professional, someone donating their skill set on behalf of our clients, nonprofits and small businesses, can support those institutions no matter where they're located, kind of in a virtual space. So this is our way of scaling up the pro bono movement and making sure all of those who want to use pro bono service have a way to do that, potentially from their own home or across vast geographic distances. So like I said, during the pandemic, we decided to make certain programmatic features of Taproot Plus available for small businesses to get extra support. Since obviously nonprofits and small businesses, I think, were hit very, very hard during the pandemic. So that is why we decided to widen our mission here a little bit. But Taproot Plus is it's something that essentially works on similar lines as any other matchmaking service that you might be familiar with that you've used in the past. So you'll sign up, you'll create kind of a basic account. We are going to ask you for some information as you sign up. So the EIN, for example, your employer identification number, will ask you kind of, what your role in the community is. If you are a mission-driven small business, we'll ask you, for your website, a rough estimate of what your kind of current budget is, and why you're interested in expanding into, getting skilled volunteer support from the skilled volunteers in our pool. Kind of just for our own curiosity, what prompted you to think about getting pro bono consulting services? So that just kind of helps us know, who exactly we're serving. So again, I'll put that ribbon up one more time. If you want to use that button to check out Taproot Plus, you can do so there and sign up if you haven't already created an account, or just, take a moment to poke around a little bit at what we have to offer there. So the feature that we have made available to small businesses is what we call Taproot Plus sessions. So these are 1 hour kind of one-time virtual consultation calls with experienced business professionals. They're an amazing way for nonprofits, small businesses. We're also open to public schools as well, as it says here, to quickly brainstorm, problem solve, figure out creative ideas, or plan for ambitious projects. So these consultation sessions are really, really great for, like we said, brainstorming, diagnosing, troubleshooting. If you just want to pick the brain of a subject matter expert about something, maybe you're trying to troubleshoot an issue in Salesforce or something like that, and you'd like to speak to someone who could maybe help you troubleshoot that issue. Or maybe you just want to talk to a business professional about how you would lay the groundwork for launching your first ever strategic plan. Those are just two examples of the types of things you could use Taproot Plus sessions for. I'm also going to give you some more examples through kind of that run the gamut from skill set to skill set, so you can get a better idea of what this actually looks like. And then in the Q&A, if you have questions about what type of needs you can bring to our marketplace, I can answer those for you there. But this is the main feature of Taproot Plus that we've made available to small businesses, is our sessions offering. So if you create an account, I do want to just go over really quick what the steps are into getting us the information about your session, what you want to talk about, how you would actually post that to our marketplace. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you some critical core questions about what your need actually is. And then after that, we will post this session to our marketplace. It'll go up in front of our pool of skilled volunteers. And we're going to start boosting this session out on the marketplace with the aim of getting skilled volunteers to sign up for your session and take the call with you. The cool thing about this is you can take up to 5 people on any given call. So if you want to have a call with one person, maybe you want like a second opinion from another expert about the same topic, you can leave this session up for more people to apply to. But that's the basic way our marketplace works. We're doing our best to get information about your session out there to the people in our pool, and encouraging them to sign up to take this call with you. We'll also just help facilitate the call. So we'll help you schedule the call through the system, send you both a confirmation block of time to put on your calendar, and then link you up via email as well. So I've put this on this slide here. This is kind of what our basic session request form looks like. I know it's a little small here, but I'm going to take each one of these pieces piece by piece, basically. But you can see here, in terms of what we're looking for, we're going to ask you what area of expertise you need support in. We're going to ask you what kind of advice you're looking for specifically, what skills you think are most important to answering these questions, and finally, what's the actual topic you would like to discuss in this 1-hour consultation session. So the first 3 are really kind of drop-down questions. And then the last one, we're going to ask you to kind of, give us a description of what it is you're actually looking for. So in terms of the area of expertise, I'm going to take each one of these segment by segment to give you as much information as possible. The first question you'll see in the drop-down with the drop-down menu is, what area of expertise do you need support in? Again, we provide a drop-down menu here with wide-ranging options from accounting to website design. We always recommend to people, if you're not completely sure about, what it's classified as, just go with your best approximate guess, to put it up on the marketplace. We'll also take a look at it when the session comes in and, make sure it's classified correctly. Some people kind of sweat this and are like, I don't know, exactly which category it's under. Don't worry too much about that. Just give us your best guess. The next thing we're going to ask about is what kind of advice you're actually looking for. So as we discussed, sessions are wonderful for many things: immediate problem solving, brainstorming, maybe troubleshooting or getting some training on something, even more broader project planning, as well as something you can do through a session. So you'll select your preferred bucket of advice from the drop-down menu. So if it is brainstorming, diagnosing, you'll see options that pop up that give you that. If your session topic bridges 2 of those options, so for example, a social media session on ideas to optimize your Facebook page for engagement may include both a training component and brainstorming. I'd say just choose the option that speaks to your highest priority goal for that call with the volunteer. And always keep in mind that once you create a Taproot Plus account, you can always come back and request kind of more service. So you're not just like locked in. This is your one and only chance. You can use it at any time. So it is kind of a resource that's going to always be there. So you don't necessarily have to cram everything into a 1-hour call, especially if there's more than one skill set involved. This piece is especially helpful for a volunteer to see in advance so they can prepare to deliver exactly what you'll need during this 50 or 60-minute call, rather. So that's the second kind of drop-down question that we're gonna ask you about. And the third drop-down question that we're going to ask you about on that session request form is, what skills are most important to you for this need that you have specifically? So you'll select an option off that drop-down menu. This will allow you to get a little more granular on the skill set expertise you're hoping to leverage during this consultation call with the volunteer. So it also helps Taproot Plus put your volunteer opportunity in front of the most relevant skilled professionals. So we kind of know who to actually pitch for this opportunity, because that's kind of how Taproot Plus works, is we boost out opportunities by skill set. So that is where you're going to select which skill set you think is most important to you to get your questions about this need that you have answered. And then finally, this is where we're going to ask you to drop down a few sentences, do a little bit of writing to set context. So we can kind of take this pitch to our marketplace. So we're going to ask you, what do you specifically want to address during this session? What is your goal for the time with the volunteer? So this is the only free response question that you'll actually have to answer. The rest are drop-down menus. We have a few tips to kind of leverage this section to get a really good match or hit on your consulting session. We recommend, if you can, keep it to 2 to 5 sentences. Like I said, a healthy paragraph. If you find yourself elaborating past that point, your need might be more ambitious than what can be covered in a 1-hour session. Or you might want to think about, maybe breaking the need down a little bit more into a kind of more centralized ask that focuses on one skill set. You'll also just want to be as specific as you possibly can about the advice you're looking for. The volunteer wants to apply to an opportunity that they believe they can perform successfully. So let them know how you'll know if the session was a successful one. So you might say, at the end of this session, I want to come away with a better idea of what a strategic planning process looks like. Or at the end of this session, I want to come away with more knowledge about what website platform I should be using for our organization's website. That's oftentimes a really helpful way to phrase that, is what do you want at the end of this consultation session that you do not currently have in the way of advice or assistance. You can also share, if you have relevant links, maybe to a website, or a specific page on your website or something you can link to. You can drop links there as well. And any details that the applicants may need to understand your ask even better. So you'll want to also just take an extra moment before hitting that submit button on your session to scan for, copy editing, grammar, punctuation, things like that. This request is going to go straight up on our marketplace. So you'll want to make sure you're really comfortable with what you've typed out. My overall advice for pitching a really good session is, just making sure it's usually centered around some kind of core question is a really good way to use sessions that you might want answers about, that usually centers around kind of a core skill set. So like I said, I'll give you some more examples of what this actually looks like. But in general, Taproot helps facilitate pro bono in 4 really broad kind of areas that'll give you a better idea of the skill sets that you'll have access to on Taproot Plus. So the first one is finance and business strategy, as I've kind of already mentioned. Marketing and communications is another one. Information technology, everything from websites to CRMs, to Microsoft 365, to technology assessments, and finally HR and leadership development. So if you have questions about creating an org chart for the first time, or what potential board structure might look like, those are opportunities for sessions as well. So I do want to talk about, once you give us that information and we post your session to the marketplace, kind of what happens after that. So this is just a screen cap from, I've used the word marketplace a lot. This is really kind of what the marketplace looks like. And you'll notice if you've gone to Taproot Plus, you'll see a button at the very top that says Browse Opportunities. If you actually want to get a good idea of, what everything looks like when it goes up to the marketplace, you can view that Browse Opportunities page. That is where all the pitches and listings go. So you can sort by sessions and actually see the other, all the sessions that are up on the marketplace, which leads me to a good point of clarification, is that this marketplace is a public marketplace. So just keep that in mind when you're, crafting your session pitch, that people can kind of look through and all our volunteers can look through and peruse these. So it's going to go up as its own individual listing, like it looks like here. So each different session is going to kind of get its own post or card, and skill volunteers are going to be able to look through these. So if they see one that sounds like something they'd be able to do, they'll click on it. They'll be able to see all the information about your organization, the community that you work in, what your website is, whatever you've been able to provide to us. So that's going to go up there. And then there will be a space where if they want to apply, they think they're a good fit, and they want to help, they'll be able to apply to your session. Once they apply to your session, we'll send you an email with information on how to schedule a call with them and get in touch. So keep a lookout for emails from us, because that is the main way we're going to let you know that someone applied to your session, and we'll prompt you to go into the system and take action on that applicant. They're going to provide you also with a statement of interest. Oftentimes they will have their LinkedIn information up there as well. We're also going to give you their email address, so you can actually, take some time to reach out to them in advance if you'd like, to do any prep work. And I'll touch on that a bit as well in the next few slides here. So this is actually what your dashboard will kind of look like if you start using sessions. So you'll see here, you'll have this big blue bar on the right, the left-hand side here. That's kind of your North Star. So if you're ever kind of lost on the site, that blue bar will help you navigate. And you can see here, this is just an example of 2 sessions that this small business has posted. This is what it's going to look like on your end. It'll show the cross section of skills that it's been tagged for. It'll say publish because it's up and running on the marketplace. This is where you'll be able to take action on these on these sessions. So if you click on one of these sessions, you can go kind of more in depth down to that session request page, see what you wrote. And if anyone's applied to it, this is where you'll be able to take action and hopefully link up with them if you like what they have to say on their statement of interest. So this is just kind of what your basic dashboard is going to look like once you start populating it with prospective sessions. So like I said before, in order to kind of help make this a little more concrete about all the things that you can, get assistance or advice on through a Taproot Plus session, I just wanted to hook you all up with some examples of the types of things you could use a session for. So maybe you're launching a new program or kind of part of your business. Maybe you have a marketing campaign you're looking to do. You could potentially link up with a communications expert about how to get your community members the right information at the right time. What does a marketing plan start to look like? You could get business planning support. Like I said, I used some examples previously of doing a business planning session, or asking about just what does a strategic planning or process actually look like, to get some advice about how to start that. You could get help with advertising, advice on how to make the most of Google ads, paid social media content, media placements, and things like that. I know obviously very big for small businesses and nonprofits. You could also get support with technology issues. So like I said, sometimes people use these calls to help troubleshoot recommendations for sites or software that you might not know about that can help you. Oftentimes it's a game changer just to be pointed in the right direction of, the technology landscape is so big. What's your advice on, what an organization or small business like mine should actually use to manage our customers or something like that. You can also ask questions about web development, especially if you're very new to the web development process and you're like, I don't even know where to start. I'd just like to speak to someone who has a web development background to kind of ask them the basics of what I need to prepare for, what my next steps might be. So you can prepare for undertaking a website. And you can also get advice about project management. So we have project managers that, lend their time to talking with nonprofits and small businesses about how to do better project management, setting clear goals, communications, expectations, implementation plans, things like that. And I also would just like to really quick touch on our golden rule of skilled volunteerism. So sometimes we'll also call this the golden rule of pro bono. But really, this is something you should always keep in the back of your mind. If you're getting professional business or consulting services donated on a pro bono basis, whether it's through a Taproot program or anywhere else, which is treat every pro bono opportunity as if it were a for pay opportunity. So what this looks like for you as a small business leader, I'd recommend don't be afraid to link up with your skilled volunteer beforehand via email and send them any materials that you might want them to review in preparation for your call. Any context that you could give them about your core question or issue is going to be helpful. And also think ahead about ways you can capture the advice that you get from them. Similarly, this consultation will be a part of the skilled volunteer's work history and resume. They want to be able to provide you with the best service advice possible and will even appreciate any actionable feedback. So at the end of the day, everyone wants to feel like they did great work. So thinking about every pro bono opportunity as it was a for pay opportunity can help keep both of you in the right mindset to make the consultation call a success. So this is the golden rule of pro bono. Like I said, treat everything like it was for pay, and you'll oftentimes have much better outcomes. As for the profile of the volunteers that are doing this kind of work, I know people oftentimes have a lot of questions about that. As far as Taproot is concerned, our main goal for skilled volunteers is that they are donating skill sets that they have at least 3 years of on-the-job professional experience in. So that is our baseline requirement for doing skilled volunteerism. It's what we want all skilled volunteers. And again, this is a Taproot standard, but I think it's an industry standard as well. We tell people, pro bono service is not a good place to break in new skill sets. It's not a good place to learn on the job. The people that you're helping are going to be requiring your assistance, and that's going to cut to their bottom line, whether it be a nonprofit where their mission is their bottom line, or whether they're a small business and obviously raising revenue is going to be your bottom line there. So we really, really encourage people to have that bare minimum of skills and experience in whatever skill set they're looking to donate in. We get our volunteers from all sorts of sources. We have a lot of corporate partners, as I mentioned at the top of the call, that fund our work, other foundations as well. Oftentimes, they're engaging their own employees in pro bono service programs. So a lot of corporate social responsibility offices, things like that, love to engage their employees in pro bono service on behalf of small businesses and on behalf of nonprofits. If you are in the Taproot Plus system as a registered small business, You could also be eligible for programs that are run, that I mentioned a little earlier at the top of the call, by our advisory services department. So these are programs where we link up with one of our corporate partners to engage their employees in pro bono service. This could be a longer term project. It could be something like a pro bono marathon where you're workshopping an issue with a team of consultants over a whole day event. So those are the kind of events that our advisory services department leads with our corporate partners. So oftentimes they are using our Taproot Plus community to find people who are interested in being part of those events. So it's another way in which your small business could get support, is you might be eligible for one of those events as well. If you are, we'll contact you and encourage you to apply to one of those events. You'll hear from one of our advisory services people. So it's just another reason to just, even if you're like, well, I might use this sessions feature in the future, but not now. If you just sign up and created a small business account, you could be potentially eligible for one of those events, and we'll encourage you to apply as they come down the pipeline. So that is kind of really the main portion of the information I wanted to go over. And I hope, some of your creative juices are flowing in terms of what you think might be the most beneficial for you, in terms of how you want to use one of those consultation calls. If maybe you've jumped the gun, you already have an account, you posted a session, or you're still looking for someone, your session is up, we would definitely love to be able to loop back with you to drill down on that a little bit more individually. So I'll post our information here at the very end, where you can get back in touch with us about that kind of issue as well. And we're also going to be sending everyone who registered for this event a copy of the recording, and so on and so forth. So you can always reply to us there. The point being, there are going to be plenty of ways for you to get in touch with us. But yeah, now I want to go ahead and open the floor. I know it looks like we got some good activity in the chat. There are some good Q&A questions that have come in that I want to make sure I can handle for you all right here live. But like I said, if at any point you have any questions or want to reach back out, or if you're like me and you think of brilliant questions at 1 a.m. and you're like, oh, I should have asked about that, you can reach out to us at help@taprootplus.org. You can also just respond to us at the email that we'll send out later on today with the follow-up information in it as well. And we'll help direct you to the best possible person. Good question that came in. How do I register online since I don't have an EIN? My company is indeed a sole proprietorship company. That's a really interesting question. Right now, I know we have as a baseline requirement that you have to have an EIN, but we might be able, to take a look at your situation. So, I'd like to link back up with you, and I know Kristen is going to help me keep track of everyone in the chat, but I'd be really interested to reach back out to you to get a better answer for you, because right now an EIN is required for sign up. So I don't want to jump the gun and tell you the wrong thing. But I want to look into that more with our engagement team and make sure we get you the right answer, because we might still be able to register you on Taproot Plus. I don't want anyone who's potentially eligible to miss out. But yeah, that is a really good question. Again, in terms of baseline eligibility right now for small businesses, we are only open in the United States for small businesses. In terms of the geographic range of our skilled volunteers, however, our skilled volunteers are registered. This actually addresses another question of kind of where all our skilled volunteers are. Most of our pool of skilled volunteer support is in the United States. That's just because we've had a presence here the longest. But for skilled volunteers, our platform is open to people in the United States, Canada, all 27 countries of the EU, along with the United Kingdom, no longer in the EU. Also we are available for skilled volunteers who are working in India as well. So, we have a broader geographic range in terms of skilled volunteers. But most of them are still coming from the United States. And another great question, will you have to visit the site all the time, or will you receive an email once a volunteer picked up the consultation call? Yeah, so you will receive an email. You don't necessarily have to keep on going in and checking. You'll get an email from us if your session gets a hit and someone applies to it. You'll be able to review them and kind of their skills and experience that they give you. We'll ask them for a statement of interest. Oftentimes, they also include their LinkedIn information. We'll hook you up with their email address so you can get in touch with them before the call. I know there's a question also about, the logistics of the call itself. So let's say someone applies to your session, you like what they have to say, and you're like, yeah, I want to talk to this person, see kind of what their advice is, if they could help me. You'll go in and you'll be able to schedule the one-on-one with them in the Taproot system. And we'll send you both an email confirming it that also has a conference line that you can both log into at the time of the call. So you're not going to receive a call necessarily. You'll both ideally log into or call into that conference line. Now, if you link up with your skilled volunteer before the call and say, hey, let's just use my Zoom or Google Meets or, whatever you feel most comfortable with, go ahead and just do that. I always tell people we're not going to be offended if you don't use our assigned conference line, but we wanted to just give you something to make sure that you both had kind of a neutral playing field that you could both log into for the call. But if you're more comfortable using another platform for the call, by all means, go ahead and do that. We don't want to limit you there. But I highly recommend, reaching out before the call if you can, with any kind of clarifying information that you might have or information that might help them. I know we also have a question about, the relationship with the skilled volunteer. As far as Taproot Plus is concerned, or Taproot on our end is concerned, they are only responsible for kind of that singular engagement. But we found that if you ask, a lot of skilled volunteers are completely happy to answer follow-up questions that you might have for them later. If you want to keep their email on file to ask them questions, it's just a matter of, asking them if that would be okay, depending on what their bandwidth for giving back looks like. So that is something, sometimes people say, can I contact you, with any extra questions I might have about this? We're not going to discourage any of that from happening. It's just something you'll want to clear with the skilled volunteer. There's been a lot of activity in the chat, so I want to make sure I don't miss anyone's questions. And like I said, we'll follow up with you, so you will have all the information here on the deck itself and the presentation. We also have a transcription going up. And again, in terms of our eligibility for geography, right now for small businesses, we're only available in the United States. However, if you are a nonprofit organization, we are cleared to work in those jurisdictions that I mentioned earlier. So in all 27 countries of the EU, in the UK, in India, Canada, and the United States. Believe it or not, there's kind of a different experience depending on if you're a small business or a nonprofit. A lot of that has to just do with there are, believe it or not, legal hurdles to opening a virtual online marketplace, broadly, depending on what jurisdiction someone is in or what country they're in. So there are some legal hoops that we have to jump through to expand eligibility. But, we hope to, if you're a small business, but you're located in the EU, we really hope to be able to provide more services across the board. Right now, unfortunately, we don't. But I wish we could. There is a good question I saw came in about someone who went ahead and submitted something. And we do ask you for a picture that we can supply to go along with your post that represents your institution or organization. If you did not, if you were not able to supply your own picture, we actually kind of have a boilerplate picture that kind of goes up there, so you don't have to, it won't be blank or anything like that if that's what you're worried about. Looks like we got another good question here from Nicholas about HR templates. Whether that would be posted as an HR strategy need. I think in terms of HR templates, that would be definitely, that would be a request probably for an HR professional rather than maybe like a marketer or a copywriter. And maybe not necessarily HR strategy, but HR operations, depending on like what kind of templates you're trying to model. But yeah, I think HR is definitely your best bet. I'm a big fan of HR pro bono simply because we oftentimes have, believe it or not, that is the sector of pro bono service that is used the least by both nonprofits and small businesses, which kind of means that we oftentimes have HR professionals just kind of waiting in the wings. So we tend to find that things like marketing and communications needs and like website design and things like that are very, very competitive. And just in terms of the resources, how many volunteers are out there doing that kind of work on a pro bono basis. But we found that HR tends to be not something that people immediately go after. So if you do have an HR question or something about HR you'd like advice on, I definitely recommend, since that is one of the ones where we usually have kind of a backlog of people. Yeah, Monica, that's a great question about if HR professionals are able to assist with contracts. I think, yes, definitely. The one thing I would just call out is if you think that's kind of bleeding over into the legal side of things a little bit, I would definitely recommend linking up with someone for legal pro bono service. So Taproot, we actually think our partners in the legal field already do pro bono service very well. So that is actually one of the skill sets we do not facilitate any pro bono in, is that legal field, simply because there's so many resources out there already for small businesses and nonprofits. But if you're looking for just like HR contracting support, that is maybe not kind of, like bleeding over into the legal side of things, there are definitely HR professionals that can help you do things like write job descriptions, but also like what kind of boilerplate contracts might look like. Oftentimes these people have access to resources that are gate kept as well, which can be very, very helpful. Yeah, so I'm looking through and making sure I'm not missing anyone's question. There's another question about how long, the volunteer will support you. Yeah, so like I said, if they have, really they're only responsible for that kind of time they're on the call with you. However, you can ask them if they'd be open to follow-up questions, if you can remain in touch, but that's going to kind of ultimately be their decision, kind of at their discretion. Okay, just looking through, making sure we're not missing anyone's questions. But like I said, you can always reach out to us if you have kind of any more follow-up questions after this. But yeah, while we're kind of closing out here, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time. Like I said, I know blocking off, 1 hour of time, during a weekday can actually be quite a bit. So thanks for listening to a little bit more about Taproot Foundation and Taproot Plus. If you are a nonprofit and got on this small business call, not to fear. We have plenty of resources out there for nonprofits as well. Make sure to reach out to us. And there's one more question that's come in about those CSR opportunities. I think, Kristen, you had the corporate link. If you could, at the taprootfoundation.org/corporate. that is where you can go to get more information about those. If you're interested in like being eligible for one of those, then really those are kind of on a invite basis. So depending on the corporate partner that we're working with, certain corporate partners have certain issue areas or types of businesses that they want to work with. So we'll send kind of an RFP or an invite for those events to you if you're eligible for one of those. So it's one of those things where once you're in the pool, you might be eligible, and we'll reach out to you if you might be eligible. Most of those are done virtually now. So, we used to facilitate those in person kind of back in the day. But the reason why I mentioned that is because now they're open to kind of nonprofits and small businesses across the whole country. Which is great because it kind of removes those geographical restrictions from accessing those. I think that's it on the Q&A. So like I said, if you have more follow-up questions, you can reach out to us here, or you can just reply to the email, and we'll make sure to get you in the right direction. But thank you all so much for being here today. I love just talking about Taproot Plus and pro bono service. So yeah, let us know if you have any more questions. But if not, we'll catch you on the flip side, and we hope to see you all online sometime in the future. But thank you so much, and have a good one.